Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Last week, my wife and I decided to go and check out Richmond, Missouri, which is about 41 minutes from where we live in Independence. It's east of the city. And this is one of the major church sites that you can visit when you come to Missouri. So there's two cemeteries, and we went to both of them. The first one I'm going to show you is the Richmond Cemetery, and that's where David Whitmer is buried. And then there's the Richmond Pioneer Cemetery that is maintained by the church, and that's where Oliver Cowdery is buried. Although I don't think that you can find his gravestone, at least I wasn't able to do it. And then you also have the gravesite of Jacob Whitmer, which was one of the 8 witnesses. I'm probably going to end up doing more research about these cemeteries and this city, but for right now, I thought it would be good to read a little bit about David Whitmer. This is something that we've read before on the channel, but it's such an interesting account from his own words of his witness of the gold plates in the translation process. This is from the July 4th, 1881 Millennial Star, but they are reprinting an article from the Kansas City Journal, June 5th, 1881, and the article is titled Mormonism. Authentic account of the origin of the sect from one of the patriarchs, discovery of the plates, and the translation of the Book of Mormon. In view of the large Mormon immigration that is now pouring into this county, and also in view of the difficulties that have heretofore existed between that sect and the people of Jackson County, the journal has taken the trouble to ascertain the facts as to the origin of the sect, as well as the history of their expulsion from Jackson County in 1833. The translation of the Book of Mormon is said to have been witnessed by 11 persons as follows: Martin Harris, David Whitmer, Oliver Cowdery, Christian Whitmer, Hiram Page, Jacob Whitmer, Joe Smith Sr., Peter Whitmer Jr., John Whitmer, Hiram Smith, and Samuel H. Smith, all of whom, except David Whitmer, are long since dead. David Whitmer, the only living witness, has resided since 1838 in Richmond, Ray County, Missouri, and the journal dispatched a reporter to Richmond to interview the quote-unquote last of the 11. The reporter called at the residence of Mr. Whitmer and found the patriarch resting in an invalid's chair, looking very pale and feeble, he having but just recovered from a long and severe illness. In person, he is about medium height, of massive frame, though not at all corpulent. His shoulder is slightly bent, as with the weight of years. His manly, benevolent face was closely shaven, his hair snow white, and his whole appearance denoted one of nature's noble men. The education acquired during his boyhood days and his long life devoted to study and thought have stored his mind with a vast fund of information. After introducing himself, the reporter opened the conversation as follows: Mr. Whitmer, knowing that you are the only living witness to the translation of the Book of Mormon, and also that you were a resident of Jackson County during the Mormon Troubles in 1833, I've been sent to you by the journal to get from your lips the true statement of facts in regard to these matters. For nearly half a century, the world has had but one side only, and it is now our desire to present to our readers for the first time the other side. Young man, you are right. I'm the only living witness to the Book of Mormon, but I have been imposed upon and misrepresented so many times by persons claiming to be honorable newspapermen that I feel a delicacy in allowing my name to come before the public in newspaper print again. I'm very sorry to hear that, but I promise you that we will only give your statement as you make it and will not misrepresent you in any manner. After a few other remarks of the same tenor, the reporter at last induced the patriarch to furnish the desired facts, which he did in the following language. Biographical. I was born near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, January 7th, 1805, but when only 4 years of age, my parents were moved to the state of New York, settling at a point midway between the northern extremities of Lake Cayuga and Seneca, 2 miles from Waterloo, 7 miles from Geneva, and 27 miles from Palmyra, where I lived until the year 1831. In the year 1830, I was married to Miss Julia A. Jolly, who is still living. The fruit of our union was a son, David J. Whitmer, now aged 48, and a daughter now aged 46 years. both of whom are now living with me. I first heard of what is now termed Mormonism in the year 1828. I made a business trip to Palmyra, New York, and while there stopped with one, Oliver Cowdery. A great many people in the neighborhood were talking about the finding of certain golden plates by one Joseph Smith Jr., a young man of the neighborhood. Cowdery and I, as well as many others, talked about the matter, but at that time I paid little attention to it, supposing it to be only idle gossip of the neighborhood. Cowdery said he was acquainted with the Smith family and he believed there must be some truth in the story of the plates and that he intended to investigate the matter. I had conversation with several young men who said that Joseph Smith had certainly golden plates and that before he had attained them, he had promised to share with them, but had not done so. And they were very much incensed with him. Said I, "How do you know that Joe Smith has the plates?" They replied, "We saw the plates in the hill that he took them out of, just as he described it to us before he had obtained them." These parties were so positive in their statements that I began to believe there must be some foundation to the stories then in circulation all over that part of the country. I had never seen any of the Smith family up to that time, and I began to inquire of the people in regard to them, and learned that one night during the year 1827, Joseph Smith Jr. had a vision, and an angel of God appeared to him and told him where certain plates were to be found, and pointed out the spot to him, and that shortly afterward he went to that place and found the plates, which were still in his possession. After thinking over the matter for a long time and talking with Cowdery, who also gave me a history of the finding of the plates, I went home, and after several months, Cowdery told me he was going to Harmony, Pennsylvania, whither Joseph Smith had gone with the plates on account of the persecutions of his neighbors, and see him about the matter. He did go, and on his way he stopped at my father's house and told me that as soon as he found out anything, either truth or untruth, he would let me know. After he got there, he became acquainted with Joseph Smith, and shortly after wrote to me telling me he was convinced that Smith had the records and that he, Smith, had told him that it was the will of heaven that he, Cowdery, should be his scribe to assist in the translation of the plates. He went on, and Joseph translated from the plates, and he wrote it down. Shortly after this, Cowdery wrote me another letter in which he gave me a few lines of what they had translated, and he assured me that he knew of a certainty that he had a record of a people that inhabited this continent, and that the plates they were translating gave a complete history of these people. When Cowdery wrote me these things and told me that he had revealed knowledge concerning the truth of them, I showed these letters to my parents and brothers and sisters. Soon after, I received another letter from Cowdery telling me to come down into Pennsylvania and bring him and Joseph to my father's house, giving as a reason, therefore, that they had received a commandment from God to that effect. I went down to Harmony and found everything just as they had written me. The next day I got there, they packed up the plates, and we proceeded on our journey to my father's house, where we arrived in due time. And the day after we commenced upon the translation of the remainder of the plates, I, as well as my father's family, Smith's wife, Oliver Cowdery, and Martin Harris, were present during the translation. The translation by Smith and the manner as follows. He had 2 small stones of a chocolate color, nearly egg-shaped, and perfectly smooth, but not transparent, called interpreters, which were given him with the plates. He did not use the plates in translation, but would hold the interpreters to his eyes and cover his face with a hat, excluding all light, and before his eyes would appear what seemed to be parchment, on which would appear the characters of the plates in a line at the top, and immediately below would appear the translation in English, which Smith would read to his scribe, who wrote it down exactly as it fell from his lips. The scribe would then read the sentence written, and if any mistake had been made, the characters would remain visible to Smith until corrected, when they faded from sight to be replaced by another line. The translation at my father's occupied about 1 month, that is from June 1st to July 1st, 1829. Okay, now I'm going to skip forward to page 437. When did you see the plates? It was in the latter part of June 1829. Joseph, Oliver Cowdery, and myself were together, and the angel showed them to us. We not only saw the plates of the Book of Mormon, but he also showed us the brass plates of the Book of Ether and many others. They were shown to us in this way. Joseph and Oliver and I were sitting on a log when we were overshadowed by a light more glorious than that of the sun. In the midst of this light, but a few feet from us, appeared a table upon which were many golden plates, also the sword of Laban and the directors. I saw them as plain as I see you now, and distinctly heard the voice of the Lord declaring that the records of the plates of the Book of Mormon were translated by the gift and the power of God. Who else saw the plates at this time? No one. Martin Harris, the other witness, saw them the same day, and the 8 witnesses, and then he lists the 8 witnesses, saw them next day. Did you see the angel? Yes, he stood before us. Our testimony as recorded in the Book of Mormon is absolutely true, just as it is written there. Can you describe the plates? They appear to be of gold, about 6 by 9 inches in size, about as thick as parchment, a great many in number, and bound together like the leaves of a book by massive rings, passing through the back edges. The engraving upon them were very plain and of very curious appearance. Smith made facsimiles of some of the plates and sent them by Martin Harris to Professor Anthon and Mitchell of New York City for examination. They pronounced the characters Reformed Egyptian, but were unable to read them. All right, and that's all I want to read from the article, but I didn't cover it all. If you want to read the whole thing, I'll put a link for it in the description box below. I hope you get a chance to come to Missouri and see the church sites. It's a really powerful experience. We really enjoyed driving out to Richmond. It was a very pretty drive, and Richmond is a nice little town. In fact, I wouldn't mind living there, and that is a possibility. I don't know that we're going to stay in Independence, but I don't think that you'll be disappointed in coming here. It's very special, and it's really fun. But that's going to be it for this one, so if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.